Good evening. Today is day 6 for my 28-day vegan video series for the month of February. Something I wanted to do, I wanted to start a series to let the vegans in my life that have impacted, that influence, and provide me with inspiration to follow along and know that I have appreciated the things that they do, appreciate the things that they bring to this. Today I'm going to have an incredible individual on, Bobby Sud, who just joined us. I'll bring him in just a minute. I'm going to have him on and talk to him. Bobby and his brother Adam have been just absolute rock stars in this movement. They bring such good positive energy, a positive message, and a positive outlook on it. They do a lot for the community. They do a lot for the movement, and like these two guys are incredible, and I was fortunate enough to be able to meet them in Nashville last year at Veg Fest. So I asked both Bobby and his brother Adam to be on. Adam will be on Friday, and I'd like to bring Bobby on and hear what he's getting into tonight. I know he's got something that he does regularly with a bunch of folks in the vegan community, and I really appreciate that. So let's bring him in here just a second. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well. First off, I really appreciate you taking the time tonight to sit down with me and talk just for a few minutes. I want to give some praise and props to you for all that you do for the environment, for the community, for the vegan movement. You guys are truly inspirations for what you guys do, and I appreciate you delaying us a little bit. We had a family viewing we had to go to. It's one of those things, it's part of life. It's a part of life. Tonight we had to say goodbye to the last member of my grandparents' generation of my family, and that can be hard. So I appreciate you shuffling your schedule around so we can make this happen tonight. I really appreciate it. So I know that tonight you've actually got something going on that you do regularly. Would you care to share what you're going out for?
Yeah, so I'm part of a group called LA Animal Save. It's a chapter of the Save movement. And every Sunday and Wednesday, we hold a vigil with Animal Alliance Network at Farmer John's Slaughterhouse in downtown LA, where trucks of pigs will arrive at the slaughterhouse. The pigs have been on the back of the truck for up to 24 to 34 hours or more without food or water, in the cold or in the heat. And when they arrive, the Vernon Police Department is technically in Vernon, who are wonderful. They're there for us. They're not there for the slaughterhouse. They make sure that the trucks stop and that we get 2 minutes to show love, kindness, and compassion to the pigs and give them water. And it's important to note that these pigs, it's not like they live in a world where it's like, oh, I hope one day we get kindness and compassion. They live in a world where it doesn't exist. The concept isn't in their minds. They don't know what it is. They never see it. And so people will ask, well, what's the point? You're not saving any animals. Why do you go out there? One is to offer the pigs the opportunity to experience kindness and compassion.
Yes.
And two, I'm doing it not for the results, but I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. So whatever happens is not as important as if someone told me you'll never, ever get a significant part of the world to be vegan or care about animals, I don't care. I wouldn't stop.
Right. I agree.
But we do have a vigil at a chicken slaughterhouse on Fridays, and we have actually saved 3 chickens in the last 2 months. So it's been really great.
That has to be a good feeling, knowing that you're able to contribute to helping them escape that life. And like you said, they're not used to knowing any kind of kindness. They're not used to experiencing compassion. How many people do you guys normally have out there on any given night?
At the pig vigils, up to or more than 100 people.
Wow. I know that's one of those things that can be very difficult emotionally because you know what's happening to these animals. But I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I appreciate you going out there to spread that awareness, to spread that compassion, and to let these sentient beings know that you're sorry for the way that they're treated. You wish you could do something to change that. I appreciate that you are out there trying to share with others your compassion that you've experienced. Now, am I wrong in saying that you did not always grow up this way?
Oh, no, not yeah. No, you're completely right when you're saying that. I'm a seventh generation Texan. So I grew up, and I'm Jewish. So I grew up with a Texas Jewish diet. So that's barbecue and brisket and
Yes.
blintzes and kugel, football, that kind of, childhood that you would expect from someone who says that they grew up, who enjoyed sports in Texas, like Friday Night Lights, that kind of,
Sure.
And for most of my childhood, like as a kid, I struggled with being a little chubby here and there. But then when I, got to high school and hit puberty, and I was able to lose that, and I was very fit, and I was playing two sports, tennis and lacrosse. My weight got out of control when I was in college, and along with my brother's story, which you'll hear on Friday, and his
Yes,
story.
I can't wait to talk to that.
Yeah, it's a good thing I'm going before him, because his story is so much more, significant. But I got to where I was almost 300 pounds, and I was a type 2 diabetic, and I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and I majored in environmental filmmaking. And I remember when I got there, I had this idea of what I was going to do with my life and who I was going to be, like a Sean Monson or Louis Sahoya, someone like that. I had that idea.
Yes.
And as my health got worse and worse, the possibility of me becoming that person was less and less. And it was like I was almost mourning the loss of the person I could no longer be, or at least that I thought I could no longer be. Sure. Yeah. But
So at what point did you start making that transition then from your typical Texas Jewish diet?
It wasn't until after my brother made his change. We went to Nepal for 11 weeks and volunteered at an orphanage. And when we got back, my dog had just passed away, and I didn't really have any reason to stay in Austin. And he asked me, he said, why don't you come move to LA, live with me, live my plant-based lifestyle, and just see what happens. And so, I agreed to do that. And it's the most profound thing that's ever happened to me.
So I would say it's fair to say that your brother saved your life.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know people say that all the time, and I'm in the same boat that I was starting to show cardiovascular issues. I was extremely overweight at one point prior to meeting. When I first met my wife, I was probably 295 pounds. And because she led us to this diet, to this lifestyle, without a doubt, it saved my life. The health issues that I was experiencing are gone. Thankfully, none of mine were as severe as being diabetic or pre-diabetic, but your brother saved your life, man. Yeah. That's incredible. So I can't wait to talk to Adam, and we can discuss his story. So you talked about Sean Munson, you talked about Louis. Like, that's some pretty big, lofty folks that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And the fact that not only did you have the foresight to realize that you had to do something to change your life or you were going to lose that dream, you've actually been living that dream.
Yeah.
I know that you work closely with Sean, and I know that you've been a part of some of these incredible documentaries. I know you guys just finished up Diet Fiction, which I thought was fantastic.
Yep.
I thought it was a great approach to an American diet problem that no one really cares to think about. I thought the approach in Diet Fiction was really good, that it wasn't just like shoving the vegan movement down your throat without you knowing it,
Yeah.
It hit everyone from a simple understanding level of truth and fact about where we are in this country as far as our diet and our obesity problem. Everyone wants that simple little pill to make the problem go away. And reality, it is simple. You just have to change what you're eating, what you're putting on your plate.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate everyone that was involved in that. And my wife and I sat down with our two of our boys to watch that. And we watched it. And when we were done, I called my mom, who is severely overweight. And she's of that generation where she won't listen. She grew up her whole life. She was stubborn, to say the least, and I'm trying to encourage her to watch that. And that's one of the things that I try to do for my platform, is encourage folks to try new things, to look at things differently, as I did. I didn't grow up this way. I wasn't raised vegan. I was raised in a family where we hunted and we fished and thought animals were here for us, not with us. And it's so funny, the difference in my life now, that my wife was strong enough to bring that to our lives. And some of the most incredible people we've met. I've got to meet Sean Munson, Alec Peterson, yourself and your brother, Jay and Ellie from the Gentle Barn. We've come across some of these folks who are, pioneers in this. I think when we're in Nashville at the Gentle Barn with Sean, I think he said he's been vegan for 20 years, 19 years, something like that. I've been vegan for a year and I've never been so excited about it. I love sharing it, sharing my story. I can't imagine, being a part of this for that long, especially when you're talking 19, 20 years ago. The movement and the information wasn't out there readily available as it is today.
I've always wondered what it's like for people like Sean and Jean-Pierre, the vegan fitness trainer. He's been vegan for 30 something years. Because there was what they think of the vegan diet now. Because there was a time when being vegan meant you had to eat healthy.
Yes.
And that doesn't exist anymore. Because there's some really, really unhealthy vegan food. That thought entered my mind. I was just wondering what they think of it.
That would be an interesting question. Next time you see Sean, why don't you ask him?
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Back then, if you were vegan, you were a whole food, plant-based diet, to where now that's kind of like an alternative to vegan diet.
Yeah, right.
So that would be a great question. I would love to hear an answer on. I've talked about it before with Dave I had on, who is big into fitness and big into cardio. And, what he's putting in his body, he's making sure it's whole food, plant-based. He's making sure he's getting the right nutrients for his body. It's not any longer synonymous with the idea that veganism is healthy from a standpoint of, technically Lay's potato chips are vegan. You can get unfrosted Pop-Tarts, which are technically vegan.
Oreos are vegan.
Oreos. If you live off of those things, you're sure as hell not going to be healthy. But hey, at least you're vegan. So you know what? I don't care. I'll support anyone who wants that.
Yeah.
So it definitely it takes out at least the cruelty and the treatment of these animals. It's not acceptable. And I hate personally, I sometimes I'm overly hard on myself because I hate that I contributed to that industry for so long. I hate that I'll be honest, I was probably one of those people that has made fun of vegans at one point in my life. And so someone has posted a meme, I've seen it several times. It's like, when you're a kid, you hate adults until you become one. So now it's like, not knowing and being misinformed. I had this misconception of what veganism was and what it was all about. And now that I'm here, it's like, wow, I was wrong. And that's one of the reasons why I want to share my story, because I can now admit that I was wrong, and I can admit that I was misinformed and misled by the industries that we were supposed to trust to make sure we were getting the right nutrition, proper diet.
I think that's why it's so important to, I'm fortunate to be friends with a lot of people that are very good at doing outreach.
Yes.
And it's important to have an approach of understanding and just being kind, not ramming it down their throat, not calling them murderers, not calling them stupid. Because like you said, you have to remember that whenever it was that you went vegan, right? Before that, you were as certain that you were right as you are now, right? And so you can't come at them saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. They're not going to listen. And because I see that with certain people in certain groups where they're angry, and I get it. Like I get that you're angry, you know, but it's not. You can't make it about you, you know.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, as a man, I think we need to do more to approach men. I try to come from the angle of encouraging and educating instead of screaming, because as a man, if you're screaming at me, I'm probably not going to listen to whatever it is you have to say.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I think some of us need to do better at. And, you know, there are times where I'm with you. I understand that anger. You and I have talked previously. One of the hardest parts about being vegan isn't choosing what to eat, isn't choosing where to eat, isn't choosing what to wear. It's being surrounded by people who could care less of what you're saying. Even when you're being kind and polite and compassionate, presenting facts and sharing knowledge that you've experienced, you still have people that could care less of what you're saying. And by far, hands down, for me, especially being in a small farm town in Ohio, that is the hardest thing to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, I've shared it before. You know, I've got a friend, we go to lunch quite often, and he's like, you know, I'm always amazed you can find something to eat anywhere. And it's not difficult. As soon as you make that connection, you make that perspective change, it's not hard at all. But dealing with folks who refuse to listen, and I used to be one of them. That's why I feel it's important for myself to share my story here in Ohio, because I know there are lots of other men out there that are the same way. Wouldn't listen to their wives, wouldn't listen to anyone else, and you know, I'm going to keep hunting and fishing. And that's how I was living my life until my wife called me one day and said, "I'm done eating meat."
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate that she did.
But like, to go back to what you said, how you know, you said that it was hard. You're dealing with like the guilt of so many years not being vegan, so many years contributing to animal agriculture and the suffering of animals and things. And I've heard people, especially people say they come to a vigil for the first time, they break down crying when they're saying, "I can't believe I did this. You know, we can never pay this back." I hear that a lot. We can never pay it back. Personally, I don't believe in karmic debt. I don't believe that whatever it is up there, you know, or, you know, the universe, God, whatever. I think that whatever it is above being paid back. I think it's only concerned with us getting it right. And so I don't like when I see people focusing on all the things they were doing wrong, because it doesn't exist anymore. You know, the past and the future are ever-present delusions. There's only right now. So get it right now and focus on that.
That is a fantastic way to put that. You know what? Thank you for sharing that. You're absolutely right. I can't change what I did in my past. I can change what I'm doing right now, and I can control what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And man, that's big, buddy. You should like put that on a T-shirt and sell a lot of them. Look at your brother down there. That's my brother. Absolutely.
There he is.
So, man, I don't even know where to go after that. It's like you just summed it all up right there. Like, I really appreciate you sharing that, because that means a lot to me, will stick with me, because I have been angry at myself over that, and I can't change the past. But, you know, that's one of the reasons why I want to share my evolution and my journey, because if I can change, anybody can change.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to keep encouraging and keep educating people who will listen, and I keep doing what I do. And man, I really appreciate you coming on here tonight and dropping that on us. I hope everyone catches that, because to me, that was worth all of this.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
You're very welcome. One of the other things we talked about earlier that you and I have talked about before is game changers.
Yeah.
When this documentary comes out, I think it's really going to shock the male contingency of our population.
Yeah, I think so too, and it's going to have. I believe it'll have a big effect on the gym rats and all the CrossFit guys and all the passionate, the guys that think that you can't be strong unless you're eating animals. You know,
sure.
All that stupid macho mentality, you know.
Damian Mander has a quote. He was being interviewed by Elizabeth Alfano, and he says, you know, as a man, I don't need this macho crap. He said being a man is like not wanting to, excuse my language, this is his quote, not wanting to fuck with something that can't defend itself. And he's absolutely right. I think men need to get rid of that mentality of, oh, meat is manly, and it's really not. The science is proving again and again and again that the more meat you consume, the more dairy you consume, the less masculine and manly you actually are.
Yeah.
It's very detrimental to all kinds of systems in your body. And I understand that Game Changers is going to address a lot of that. And I hope that people will jump onto that when that's released. I know they're working on getting that finalized. And when they get that out there, I think it's going to be huge for the movement. And if we can break this 70-30% ratio that we see between men and women in the vegan movement, I think if we could get those both at like 70-70, that's when we're going to see enormous changes.
Yeah.
And that will be very exciting. So
I can say though, like anyone who thinks that there's something manly about the animal agriculture industry it's because they've never seen it.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that people should. No one under the age of 12 should see what happens in a slaughterhouse. You know, people say, oh, all children should have to see it, and they're probably saying that because they haven't seen it. And I know Sean and I are making a movie together right now, and I've been in slaughterhouses, and
I'm sorry. Do you see Adam's comment? I apologize, but listen, buddy, Adam, we'll talk about that on Friday. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yeah, but going into slaughterhouses, going and filming and being on the killing floor during like a kosher slaughter of cows one day, and you see the cow will come in and it comes into this like cage where this bar goes underneath its chin and it lifts its chin up, and the cow, the smell, the humidity, the animal, this cow knows something bad has just happened in this room and something bad's going to happen to them. And the fear and the pain is so intense that it's catastrophic. And to think that that's somehow manly is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Here's an innocent animal that has no idea what's going on, and some person with either is just doing their job or just doesn't care, comes and slices his throat open. I don't see what's manly in harming animals that not only are they not angry. Like if you see animals that have been rescued and gone to the gentle barn,
Yeah.
Like there was one, Gentle Ben. He was this enormous black Angus cow.
Yes, it's huge, almost 3,500 pounds.
Yeah, and so he experienced a terrible life when he was in animal agriculture. By us, by humans, was treated horribly by humans. He was rescued, and he grew so large because of selective breeding that he was too big for his joints. And so his knees hurt, and he could barely, it hurt for him to move. But not only did he forgive human beings for what they did to him, if Alec Peterson came to where Ben was, Ben would, no matter how painful it was for Ben would get up and walk over to him. I mean, can you imagine human beings being that forgiving? It
doesn't happen.
No, it's unbelievable.
I would get up and go see Alec too. But, my wife and I, we got to take a trip this past summer to the Gentle Barn in California, and unfortunately, we did not get to meet Ben. He had transitioned, I think, a couple of weeks before we made it out.
Yeah.
I really wish we had made it out there at that time. What people don't realize is Star, who's still...
Star's a big one, yeah.
He was over 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
And it's like, people are like, when I tell someone that, they're like, well, why do they get that big? I've never seen a cow that big. That's right, because most of them don't live that long. Most of them aren't treated that well. Most of them don't live at a sanctuary. Most of them are sent to slaughter before they're 2 years old.
Yeah. And people, when you bring up the idea of the pigs that are going to arrive tonight, they're 6 months old. And so people will say, oh, why are they killing babies? Every time you're eating pork, that was a baby that died.
Yes.
Pigs are slaughtered at 6 months old. Chickens are slaughtered at 60 days old. Okay? Cows are slaughtered either for veal as a baby or at 2 years old. Almost every animal you're eating is a baby.
It's a baby. Yep.
And that's somehow manly, I guess. I don't know, but it's just, and people don't know because they don't want to know. Like I'll be with family and they'll be eating meat. Not my parents or my sister or my brother, but cousins or something. And I'll say, well, if I'm sitting there, I'm going to say something. I'll say, do you want to know how that meat got onto your plate? Because I can tell you. And they'll say, no, I know. I don't want to hear about it. Or I don't want to know. Because even if they've never seen anything about it, they know it's going to be a horror show. Or if they do know, they say, well, I don't want to hear about it. I was like, okay, well, this is the mentality you're taking then if you're saying you don't want to hear about it. If I were to tell you in that room right over there, you can see the doors are slightly open, and you can see that you can kind of hear a man beating a child to death. Instead of you going in there and doing something about it, you're paying me to close the door. That's the mentality you're taking. So
it's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I used to be a part of that. Not only that, like as a hunter, my wife and I have had numerous arguments about this. As a hunter, I always thought it was a compassionate way to consume an animal. I thought I was doing, nature a favor by controlling population.
Yeah.
Which is all just a crock of shit now. Now that I see that, I can admit that my wife was right. But we were at the point in our lives where she wouldn't allow deer meat to come into our house because she thought the hunting was cruel, but yet she'll tell you that she felt like a hypocrite because she was still feeding chicken and cows to our family. So, there's definitely nothing manly about that. There's nothing manly.
But that's not her fault. The industry,
yes, I agree.
The meat industry not only does not want you to see anything, does not allow you. You're not allowed to see how it's done. You're literally not. It's the only industry, it's the only companies in the United States that can say, you can't see what we're doing, just trust us, it's fine. Every other company has to be transparent on how things are made and how they do things, and that everyone's being treated well, except meat and dairy industry. It's the opposite. The government protects them from showing us how things are made. It's insane.
It is. And I think people are very disconnected because when, most people, when they go to the store and they buy a package of chicken breasts, it's in a clean, tidy package.
Yeah.
It's already been portioned. It's already been defeathered. It's already, they don't have to do anything. All they got to do is cook it. And so they're disconnected with the fact that was a living being. That was a living soul running around. Unfortunately, chickens in that scenario aren't running around, but should be. You get these companies that say, oh, look, we have happy cows. They make better cheese. Talk about a load of...
Yeah, happy cow. They're raped, so they're happy. That's how the dairy industry works.
How do you sell that? And that, that goes back to
people. They use what they call a rape rack.
Yes, literally, that's the industry name for it.
Yeah.
It goes back to they don't want you to know. So, like, I'm not afraid to admit that I didn't realize, didn't know, didn't want to know that, Holstein dairy cows, as everyone else calls them, they don't just produce milk on their own. They have to be raped. They have to have a baby, and you have to take their baby away from them so they can have the milk. It's ridiculous, and it's one of those things when you don't want to know, you kind of turn a blind eye to it, and you don't really think about it. But then all of a sudden, when you think about it, it's like, holy crap! Just yesterday, my oldest son, he's 13. He and I were having a conversation about the whole idea that we used to consume bacon. We used to consume that, and I said, Drew, let's think about this. Obviously, now that we're vegan, and we would, the thought of that makes you nauseous. I was like, think about this logically. This is a 6-month-old baby, and you're eating its flesh, its skin, but they call it bacon, and all of a sudden McDonald's has a Super Bowl ad that, is out to everybody. It's not acceptable. I think, there are companies trying to fight for proper labeling, so Miyokos can't call their stuff, by what they want to call it. And I think what's fair is fair. You shouldn't be able to come up with these catchy names like bacon
it should be 6-month-old baby pig flesh.
Yeah.
It's just, but you're not going to see that because we don't have folks on our side fighting for lobbyists and legislation, which I think is something that we're going to have to get into.
Yeah.
So without a doubt. Well, Bobby, listen, man, I don't want to keep you anymore, but I really appreciate this. Anytime you want to talk, you give me a shout. Can't wait to see you guys again. You'll have to let me know if you're going to end up in Nashville for Veg Fest.
I will let you know for sure.
If we get out that way to see you guys, I want to come along with vigils with you.
Oh, that'd be great, man. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. But I really appreciate all that you do and all you bring. And thanks for dropping some wonderful perspective on us tonight. Hopefully that reaches and touches someone else in a way that I appreciate. Just that was awesome. So
thanks, man.
I hope you have a good one, and we'll be in touch, brother.
Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
Anytime. Thanks, man.